All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So, plan for today, we are going to finish up section 3. So we've got, I think, 2 slides left, and we'll be good to go from there. Sydney, your group has good things today, so count on you guys. And then your explore page today, the question is, why were folk tales so important for slaves? I want you guys to be able to tell me kind of what folk tales, what the role that they played, and why they were important. So, and then we have 2 more slides to do today, and then we have an assignment that we are going to do later. We'll have plenty of time to get it done. And then I'm going to hand out we'll get your test review handed out.
Attention teachers, I just want to let you know that we have concluded our crisis drill. We simply evacuated City Hall under the pretense of a gas leak we needed to investigate. So thank you, City Hall, for participating, and class will resume as usual. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Didn't affect us. So, all right, guys. So let's go ahead and let's focus back in. Let's focus in. So, I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to do your explore page, and then we will get the rest of the class started. So, let's go and get started.
Mr. Fox is back.
My foot hurt.
Hi. Because Mr. Holmgren is taking over the class until so he can learn.
Yeah, like starting chapter 14. He's in the library right now.
One time I drew on the desk, I was trying to fix it, I was like this. And then it's like, I only you're gonna give like 9 cents or something. Really? I just drew on the desk.
Me neither.
I yelled at you.
I woke up and took 2 ibuprofen at like 2 a.m. And this morning took 5. I gotta hit 20 today.
Oh, that's nice.
I took 14 yesterday. To my liver. Not enough.
All right, folks, let's go and get started. So, good things. Chloe, what do you have for us? This your aunt this weekend. Very cool. You guys gonna do anything special? Do what? Your cousin's birthday? Very cool. Have fun. 1, 2. Lily,
I went to Taco Rio last night.
Taco where?
Taco Rio. It's
Taco-
on the east side.
Very cool. What'd you get? Just tacos? All right, very cool. Cool. Was it good? All right. Glad you had fun. Glad it was good. 1, 2. Stanley?
Today is opening day.
It is opening day. You and Mr. Show gonna root on your Yankees? All right. Well, have fun. Best of luck to them. Who do they play? Do you know? No, I don't know what's ahead. All right. Well, best of luck. 1, 2. There we go. All right. Sydney?
My brother went to Colorado yesterday.
Brother went to Colorado. Very cool. Where did you go?
I forgot what it's called.
Where we call? Did you go skiing or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So maybe Breckenridge.
Yeah, I think so.
Breckenridge. All right. Very cool. 1, 2. Come on, guys. 1, 2. There we go. All right, Allie. What do you got for us?
There's only 7 days until our first softball tournament.
7 days to your first softball tournament. Very cool. What position do you play?
First in center field.
First in center field. You got a powerful arm?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, best of luck to you. Hopefully you guys do well. 1, 2. All right, guys. So, your Explore page today. Why were folk tales so important for slaves? What'd you guys come up with? What do you guys got for me? Renee?
Were stories with the moral, so it taught others how to survive slavery.
Right. So taught other people taught other slaves how to survive slavery. Absolutely. Kind of had some morals to them. Absolutely. Anybody else? Jackson, you got one?
I have a question. Okay, there was one story we read at some point where it was like about slaves, and there was one guy that flew around, and when they like dropped, he would like sing a song or something. I don't remember, and they would fly back. I remember it, but I don't remember what it's called.
I think we talked about that. Someone asked about that yesterday. Apparently, it was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't delved too deeply into slave folktales and that kind of thing.
But like in reality, it's kind of like,
Very cool. Yeah, kind of talking about freedom, because when you're in the air, you're free. You're not earthbound. Very cool. So absolutely kind of cool. So yeah, talked about, it kind of talks about what they're wanting to talk about freedom. Absolutely. Very cool. So, we're going to go ahead and continue on. So go ahead and put your Explore page away. And make sure you have the Mary Chestnut Boykin and the Frederick Douglass reading from yesterday, because that is going to be with the question, because your Explore pages are due tomorrow. We're going to go ahead and get them turned in. So, now we're going to go ahead and get started with notes today. We're going to be talking about slave rebellion and kind of some of the consequences that came about as a result of that, and what it was like a little bit. So, go ahead and open up your books to page 200, or 428, I apologize. And I want you guys to read the section that says Seeds of Rebellion. I think it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs. And then I want you guys to be able to tell me what were some different ways that slaves rebelled against their masters. So, let's go ahead and get started. You guys have a few minutes to do so. Now you are.
Gaining freedom by escaping the freedom discovered slaves and captors went back to their religion. They were faced with punishment. However, thousands of enslaved people
It's too cold for you guys. All right, guys. So, what were some ways that slaves rebelled? Kind of small ways that slaves would rebel against their masters. Will?
They hold their own religious beliefs.
They had their own religious beliefs. Absolutely, kind of give them that sense of freedom. Or type of thing. Ashley, stop. Kaylee? They worked slower. They said that if you're going to treat me like this, I am going to do the work, but it's going to be a lot slower. It's going to take longer. Absolutely. What's a third way? Vanessa?
They ran away for a couple of days.
Right. They would run away, trying to avoid those angry slaveholders. Absolutely. Just little said, okay, you're mad at me? Well, I'm going to run away. You can't punish me or whatever. Absolutely. So, let's go ahead and get started. So go ahead and get your note pages out, and we will continue on. So, Seeds of Rebellion. In small ways, slaves rebelled against the system daily. Some of the things they would do is they would work slower. They had their own religious practices, and they passed down parts of their heritage. So, you can see kind of down in this picture, and I know it may be hard to see for people in the back, but they are doing their own, they are practicing their religion, whatever that may be. And then yesterday, we talked about, we were talking about punishment and things like that, and there, we have those 2 pictures from the show Roots. We have the one of the girl named Kizzy, and then the one of Kunta Kinte and Mammy Bell. And so what Kunta Kinte was doing was he rebelled by passing down his heritage to his daughter Kizzy. He taught her about what it was, who the Mandinka were, and what her ancestors were like, and what her people were like. So those were some ways that they would rebel. Others, they ran away for a few days in order to avoid a angry slaveholder. So make the slaveholder mad, you are going to run away so they can't punish you. And some actually tried to escape permanently. Many were successful, Frederick Douglass, we talked about yesterday. Harriet Tubman, she's another famous slave who escaped to freedom. I believe you guys are actually going to be talking about her in the next chapter, the next 2 chapters with the Underground Railroad. So you'll talk about more like her. But escaping to the north was very difficult. It wasn't guaranteed that you were going to get to the north and to have your freedom, because there were laws, one of which was called the Fugitive Slave Act, that would that forced people to return slaves to the north, or to the south. I apologize, not the north. So if you found a runaway slave, it was by law you had to turn them over, hand them over to slave catchers, is what they were called, the people that went around trying to recapture the slaves. And some did, but sometimes others, they said, nope, heck with the law, I don't believe in slavery, so I'm going to help you be free. So those are some of the ways that escape was hard. And also, you didn't exactly know who you could trust. Some people would say that they were anti-slavery, but what they were doing is they were actually just selling you back into slavery. So you didn't know exactly who you could trust. It made it very difficult. If discovered, slaves would be sent back to their slaveholders, where they would face certain punishment and sometimes even death. So, remember yesterday we talked about the punishment. So if they ran away, they might actually, they would be punished in front of groups of people, the other slaves. So that way, other slaves said, "Hey, you're not going to be running away. This is what will happen if you do run away." So that and then, like I said, sometimes they were put to death just due to the fact that the slaveholder may have been tired of kind of dealing with that slave who would keep running away. So as another way to kind of instill fear and make sure the slaves did what they were told, they would put them to death. So that way they're like, okay, not going to do that ever again. That's what happened to that one guy, that one slave. I don't want it happening to me. I'm going to obey. So, does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys have any questions about that? Jacqueline?
So if they ran away just for a few days, so with like an injured slave, wouldn't the slaveholder just be even more mad when they came back because they ran away?
Right, they would be probably a lot more mad, but sometimes they may actually kind of time it so that way when the slaveholder is away, that they kind of sneak back in so they don't get punished. But and sometimes when they came back, they would be punished. Still, absolutely, excellent question. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to finish up section 3. There's little reading left on page 428. I would like for you guys to read the section that says slave uprisings, and it finishes on page 429. And I want you to be able to tell me what was Nat Turner's rebellion and what happened as a result. So let's go ahead and get started.
We had a test.
Do that.
Any of 65 people, I don't know.
All right, guys. What was Nat Turner's rebellion? Well,
Nat Turner, believed he was told by God to end slavery, and so he decided to kill every slaveholder and their families in all of the United States.
absolutely. Yeah, it was where a group of slaves led by Nat Turner, who believed he had a mission from God to end slavery, and his way of doing that was to kill every slaveholder and their family in the entire country. It led to a lot of mass hysteria, which I'll get to in a second. And so, what were some of the results of Nat Turner's rebellion? Jackson? Right. Over 100 innocent slaves were killed. Absolutely. What's another one? We talked about these laws yesterday. Jackson.
The laws at like the plantations and the
Right. So slave codes. Yeah, absolutely. The slave codes were made stricter. They were more tightly enforced, and even some new ones actually kind of popped up. Very good. Very good. So let's go ahead and we'll finish up. We got one more slide left. So slave uprisings. The picture up here. This is a picture of Nat Turner. There were several kind of different ones, but this was the most common one. So what we went with. So that's Nat Turner. And like I said, violent slave revolts were relatively rare. Most slave revolts were, as we discussed earlier, they were the slaves saying, I'm going to work slower, I'm going to practice my own religious beliefs, I'm going to run away for a few days. These very violent ones where people died, relatively rare. Nat Turner's Rebellion. So, then it was the most violent slave revolt in the entire country. It was the most violent slave revolt in the entire country. It occurred in 1831 and lasted for 6 weeks. It's a month and a half. So, it's an entire month and a half. And what Nat Turner said was he believed that God had told him to end slavery. He was the one who was to end slavery, and this was the way he went about and did it. And his plan, it was to kill all slave owners and their families in the entire country. So, if anyone owned slaves, they were in his crosshairs. He was going to kill them. And I mean, the parents, the kids, everybody. So, the first thing they did was they actually attacked the family that held Turner as a slave, and then proceeded to kill 60 white people in the community in which that his family lived. So, and like I said, it led to mass hysteria. People were very concerned that they could be next, that their slaves were going to rise up and attack them, that they didn't know who was with Nat Turner and who wasn't. They had no idea. So slaveholders actually became very violent, and became even more violent towards their slaves. Like I said, they didn't know if their slaves were with Nat Turner or not. And as a result of this, more than 100 innocent slaves who were not part of Nat Turner's group were killed in an attempt to stop the rebellion. So like I said, this goes back to that mass hysteria. They didn't know who was part of it and who wasn't, so they killed a group of more than 100. And then when they finally captured Nat Turner after 6 weeks, Turner confessed, said that his cause was worth his death, and he was hanged as an example to say, if you do this, if something like this happens ever again, this is the punishment. So, do you have a question, David?
Would it be hung?
Hung, hanged, same thing, but yeah, I mean, hung. Yeah, he was hung as a result. Look at that. There I am making another mistake. So
You're right.
I am right.
Hanged is technically correct English, hung is not a word.
Oh, okay.
Everyone says it is technically not a word.
Cool.
I learned that from
In
the
my
head of the
dictionary
English
it
department,
is.
so.
Look at me being right for once in this hour. Excellent. 4 times I know.
Good job.
So, thank you, Mr. Fox. All right. In many states, as a result, they strengthened their slave codes. So, since they remember yesterday, those slave codes were those laws that were passed that said slaves could not freely travel or get an education, things like that. The slave code, they after this, they strengthened those codes. They made them stronger. They passed new ones that further restricted slave actions. All right. That, my friends, is the end